There's always that one person everyone loves for no reason. At my school, that was Ethan. He wasn't the smartest or the funniest or even the best looking. But somehow, people acted like he was the main character of our entire grade. Teachers gave him extra chances, people laughed at his dumb jokes, and every time he walked into a room it was like the volume went up. And then there was me, the person who just didn't get it. I didn't hate him at first. But the more everyone adored him, the more I started to notice the little things. Like how he interrupted people mid-sentence but nobody cared. Or how he made fun of quiet kids and everyone laughed. Or how he'd say, "We should hang out sometime," and never actually mean it. He was nice in the way influencers are nice, friendly, polished, but never real. And when I said that out loud once, just once, people acted like I'd committed a crime. "Dude, why do you always gotta be negative?" my friend Marco said. "I'm not," I told him. "I just think he's fake." "Fake? Bro, he literally helped organize the food drive." "Yeah, for extra credit."
Marco Said.
"You just don't like people who are liked." That line stuck with me. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was jealous. But that didn't explain what I saw next. Because one day, Ethan's perfect image started to slip. It happened during homecoming week. We were decorating the gym, and everyone was buzzing about the dance, taking selfies, playing music. Ethan was in the middle of it all, laughing, holding a box of balloons, flirting with half the cheer squad. But when one of the freshmen accidentally spilled paint on his shirt, Ethan's smile dropped. Completely. He grabbed the kid's arm tight and hissed, "Are you stupid?" under his breath. Nobody else saw it. Nobody except me. Then he looked up, saw me watching, and instantly switched back to smiling. "It's all good, man," he said loudly, patting the kid's shoulder. "Accidents happen." Everyone laughed again. The music went back up, but I couldn't unsee it. That was the first crack. After that day, I couldn't stop noticing things. Little things. Moments everyone else brushed off but stuck to me like splinters. Ethan would tell stories that made people laugh, but someone was always the punchline. He'd forget to invite certain kids to hangouts, and then post pictures online with captions like, "Wish everyone could have made it, loudly crying face fire." And the comments were always full of hearts and fire emojis. No one ever realized who he was leaving out. Sometimes it was me. I didn't even care that much at first. It's not like we were close. But then it started happening to my friends too. Emma, who used to eat lunch with me every day, suddenly started sitting with him. She'd still wave at me, but from across the courtyard, surrounded by his group. They'd all laugh at something he said, and I'd just sit there staring at my phone, pretending not to care. But I did. I cared way too much. It wasn't even jealousy anymore. It was confusion. How could everyone fall for someone so obviously fake? How could people not feel it? One afternoon after school, I saw him in the parking lot, talking to Emma. I was far enough away that they didn't notice me, but close enough to hear the tone. His voice was soft, calm, but it had that edge I remembered from the paint incident. He said something like, "You should be careful who you hang out with. People talk." Emma looked uncomfortable, just nodding. He smiled, touched her shoulder, and walked away like nothing happened. When I walked up to her, she looked like she'd seen a ghost. "What did he say?" I asked. "Nothing," she muttered. "It's not a big deal." But it was a big deal. I could tell. That night, she didn't reply to any of my texts. The next day at school, she sat with Ethan again. And when she saw me in the hallway, she gave me this tiny, guilty smile. The kind that said, "I know, but I can't do anything about it." It hit me then. Ethan didn't just want people to like him. He wanted people to need him. He made you feel like if you weren't on his side, you didn't exist. And somehow, I'd become the only one who wasn't. After a while, it felt like the whole school was shifting around him. Like gravity had changed direction and everyone was just falling toward Ethan. Group chats started going quiet on me. People stopped tagging me in posts. Even Marco, who'd been my best friend since 7th grade, started saying things like, "You overthink everything, man. Ethan's cool. Just let it go." But how do you let go of something that's slowly making you invisible? It got to the point where I'd walk into class and feel eyes flick toward me, then away, like people knew something I didn't. I'd hear whispers with my name in them, short laughs that ended when I turned around. And every time I caught Ethan looking at me across the room, he'd flash that same polite, perfect smile, like he was daring me to say something. Then came the group project in English. We got assigned randomly, and of course I ended up with him, Emma, and a girl named Lily. I thought, fine, maybe it's a chance to reset. Maybe I can just play it cool. But on the first day of planning, Ethan took control instantly. "Okay, I'll handle the slides. Emma can write the summary, Lily can do research," he said, turning to me with that trademark grin. "And you can, format everything at the end?" I just stared at him. "Format everything? Seriously? That's not really fair," I said. "We're supposed to split the work evenly." He laughed lightly, the kind of laugh that makes you feel like the joke. "Come on, man. You're good with computers, right? This'll look amazing if you do the design." The others nodded almost automatically. I didn't argue. There was no point. By the end of the week, they'd all been texting in a separate group chat. One I wasn't invited to, and sent me a half-finished draft 2 hours before it was due. Can you make it look good? Emma texted. I did, because I knew if I didn't, they'd find a way to make me look like the lazy one. When we presented the project the next day, Ethan nailed it. He spoke like he'd written the entire thing himself. The class clapped. The teacher praised him. Afterward, as people filed out, Ethan patted my shoulder. Thanks for the help, man, he said. I couldn't have done it without you. It sounded like a compliment, but the way he said it, loud enough for others to hear, made it sound like I'd just been his assistant. Everyone laughed. I didn't. That's when I realized something dangerous. It wasn't that people didn't see what he was doing. It's that they didn't want to. Things got worse after the project. Not all at once. More like quietly, the way a bruise spreads under your skin. People stopped sitting next to me in class. When I joined a lunch table, conversations slowed down. Then someone would say, "Oh hey, that seat's saved." Even when it obviously wasn't. I'd catch pieces of whispers in the hallways. Stuff like, "Did you hear what he said about Ethan? Yeah, he's just jealous. He's been acting weird lately." And I knew exactly where it was coming from. Ethan didn't confront people directly. He didn't need to. He just dropped little seeds, concerns, observations, into conversations, and watched them grow into rumors. By the end of the month, people were looking at me differently, like I was the one who'd done something wrong. One Friday afternoon, after class, I decided I'd had enough. Ethan was at his locker, surrounded by his usual crowd. I walked straight up to him. "Can I talk to you for a sec?" He turned, smiling like he always did. "Sure, man. What's up?" "Alone." He raised an eyebrow but followed me a few steps down the hall. I could feel everyone watching. "What's your deal?" I asked quietly. "My deal?" he repeated, tilting his head. "You've been talking about me. Don't act like you haven't." He chuckled, shaking his head. "Dude, I haven't said anything. People just notice how you act." "How I act?" "Yeah, paranoid, angry all the time. Honestly, I was just trying to look out for you." That's when I realized he'd already prepared for this moment. He wanted me to confront him. He wanted me to snap in front of everyone so he could look calm and reasonable while I looked crazy. And he was good. He lowered his voice, eyes soft, like he was genuinely worried. "You should really talk to someone about this, man. It's not healthy." The crowd behind us got quieter. Something in me broke. "You're fake," I said. "You manipulate people, and they're too blind to see it." His smile didn't move, but his eyes did, sharp, satisfied. "Come on," he said, laughing lightly. "Don't make this weird." Laughter rippled through the group. And that was it. My reputation? Gone. I walked away, heart pounding, every whisper behind me feeling like a knife. I thought about switching schools. Seriously. But deep down, something in me refused to let him win. Because the truth about people like Ethan? Eventually, they slip. You just have to wait long enough for them to trip over their own perfection. Took a few weeks, but the silence finally started to hurt less. I kept to myself. Stopped trying to convince anyone of anything. Ate lunch behind the gym, worked on homework during study hall, and went home early whenever I could. It wasn't fun, but it was peaceful, quiet in a way it hadn't been before. Meanwhile, Ethan just kept glowing, promoting fundraisers, hosting group hangouts, posting pictures of himself holding signs that said things like, "Be kind, Redheart." Every caption looked like it had been written by an AI trained on fake positivity. And the thing about being alone, you start to see what everyone else is too busy to notice. The first crack came during the senior video project. The school's media club was making a montage of student interviews. "What Lincoln High means to you." Ethan volunteered to help direct it, obviously. I wasn't involved. But one afternoon, I cut through the auditorium after class and saw him standing near the stage, arguing with someone. A junior named Caleb who was filming the interviews. Ethan's voice was sharp, low, but full of venom. "No, delete that." I said, "Delete it." Caleb crossed his arms. "It's not even bad, dude. You literally told her to redo her line because she stuttered." I said, "Delete it." Ethan repeated, jaw tight. "You're not posting anything without me approving it first." Caleb frowned, shook his head, and started packing up the camera. "Whatever, man." When he walked out, Ethan turned and saw me standing there. For a second, his face twisted. That perfect smile gone, replaced with something I'd never seen on him before. Pure, ugly panic. Then it was gone. "Hey," he said, grinning again like nothing happened. "You working on something for class?" I didn't answer. I just walked past him and out the door. That was the first time he didn't look sure of himself. 2 days later, it happened. During the morning announcements, the media club played a preview of the senior video on the projector. The whole school was watching. It started normal, clips of people laughing, hugging, teachers smiling. Then came a short clip that wasn't supposed to be there. It was Ethan. He was off camera, his voice crystal clear. "Can we redo that? You sound nervous. Just try to sound like you're actually happy to be here." Then a pause. Then, "God, why do they let people like you talk in these things?" The room went dead silent, then gasped. The teacher fumbled for the remote, but it was too late. The clip had already played, full volume, in front of everyone. And for the first time all year, nobody looked at me. Everyone looked at him. You could actually feel the energy shift in the room. When the bell rang, nobody moved. People just sat there, staring at the blank screen, replaying what they just heard. It wasn't long, 10 seconds at most, but it was enough to flip everything. By lunch, the clip had already been posted on 3 different group chats and 2 Instagram stories. Someone slowed it down, added captions. Another added dramatic music. God, why do they let people like you talk in these things? Over and over. It spread like wildfire. And the weirdest part? Nobody said his name directly. They didn't have to. Everyone knew. When I walked through the hallway, I saw people whispering. Not about me this time, but about him. Ethan kept his head down. He looked smaller somehow, like someone had finally turned off the spotlight that used to follow him everywhere. After school, I saw him at his locker, alone for the first time ever. For a second, I thought about just walking past. But some part of me needed to see it, to see him without the mask. He heard my footsteps and turned around. His face was tight, tired. You happy now? He asked. I didn't say anything. You think I don't know who leaked it? He said quietly. You've been waiting for this, watching me, wishing I'd mess up. I didn't leak anything, I said. You did that yourself. He stared at me for a long time, like he wanted to say something else. Then he just sighed. You know what's funny? They'll hate me now, but give it a few weeks and they'll forget. People always forget. Then he closed his locker and walked away. And maybe he was right. Maybe people would forget. But for now, the silence that followed him through the halls was the closest thing to justice I'd ever seen. The next week, everything felt different. Emma sat next to me again at lunch. Marco texted me, saying, You were right, man. Teachers didn't bring Ethan up anymore. He stopped posting completely. One afternoon, I saw him sitting by himself on the bleachers watching practice. For a second, I almost felt bad. But then I remembered the way he used to twist people up, how he'd made everyone feel small just to stay big. He wasn't a monster. He was just someone who'd gotten used to being liked so much that he forgot what honesty sounded like. And maybe that was the scariest part. Because people like him, they don't look evil. They look perfect. Until they finally say something they can't take back. The funny thing about truth is, it doesn't make everything better right away. After the clip went viral, people stopped talking to Ethan, yeah. But they didn't exactly start apologizing to me either. Everyone just kind of pretended the whole thing never happened. Like the school was embarrassed it ever believed in him. But that silence? That was loud enough. For the first time all year, I could walk through the halls without feeling like I had to prove something. Nobody whispered when I passed. Nobody rolled their eyes. They just let me exist again. It wasn't victory. It was peace. A few days later, Emma caught up with me outside the cafeteria. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For what? For not listening. For sitting with him when I knew you were right. I shrugged. You didn't know. She shook her head. No, I did. I just didn't want to lose him. Or the group. I didn't want to be alone. That hit harder than I expected. Because I got it. That's what made Ethan so powerful. He made people afraid of being left out. And honestly, that fear's real. Nobody wants to eat lunch alone. Nobody wants to be that person who doesn't fit. But the truth is, it's better to be alone for a while than surrounded by people who only clap when you pretend. By spring, the whole thing had blown over. The clip was old news. There were new rumors, new dramas, new people to obsess over. Ethan transferred schools before graduation. The teachers said it was a personal decision. No one really asked questions. Sometimes, I still see his old posts floating around online. Old photos of him smiling, with comments full of hearts from people who have no idea who he really was. And weirdly, I don't even hate him anymore, because if I'm honest, there's a part of all of us that wants to be like that badly. To be the person everyone gravitates toward. We just don't all lose ourselves in the process. If someone asked me what I learned from it all, I'd say this: watch who you let shape your idea of good. Because some people don't have to be cruel to be dangerous. They just have to convince everyone they're perfect. And once they do, nobody ever questions the damage they leave behind. Life just went back to normal after that. No slow clapping. No dramatic speeches. Just normal. People moved on. New gossip replaced the old. But for me, things felt different. Calmer. I didn't have to prove I was right anymore, and weirdly, that made me stop caring about being right at all. Ethan's story turned into a rumor. Then a memory. Then nothing. But every now and then, when someone new at school gets super popular overnight, when everyone starts worshiping them like they can't do anything wrong, I catch myself watching from the back of the crowd. Not jealous. Not bitter. Just cautious. Because I've seen what happens when people love someone too blindly. And I've learned that sometimes, being the only one who doesn't fall for the act isn't lonely, it's clarity.